Okay, get this. What if the US government started buying up Bitcoin, like a lot of it, treating it just like its gold reserves? Sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, it's a real prediction from a big-name investor, Cathie Wood. So let's really dig into this theory and figure out what's going on.
And there it is, right there in black and white. Cathie Wood, the founder of ARK Invest, is saying the U.S. government could actually start buying Bitcoin for a national reserve. Now, this isn't just some off-the-cuff remark. Nope. It's a full-blown prediction, and it's tied to some really specific ideas about politics and the economy.
So you have to wonder, how did we even get here? I mean, going from just seizing crypto from criminals to, what? Actually creating a strategic national reserve on purpose? It's a huge leap. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. The thinking behind this potential massive shift.
Okay, first things first. We need to be super clear about what the US government actually has right now, because there's a pretty big misunderstanding out there. See, the US does have a Bitcoin reserve, but how they got it, well, that's a totally different story from what's being proposed.
And you can see the difference right here. On one side, you've got the current situation. The government gets its Bitcoin reactively, by seizing it from criminals. It's messy, it's legally complicated. But on the other side, we're talking about a proposed strategy to actively go out and buy Bitcoin, to treat it as a strategic asset. That's not just a small change. It's a complete 180 in how they think about it, from being a passive janitor of seized funds to an active strategic player.
So yeah, that's where we are today. The Bitcoin the government has in its digital wallet is all from seizures. And what's really interesting is that former President Trump has actually pledged not to sell it. So he's basically already treating it like a national asset. But, and this is the key part, they haven't gone out and bought any. Not a single strategic purchase has been made.
Right, so if they're not buying it now, what could possibly change? What would it take to kickstart such a huge policy shift? Well, according to Cathie Wood, the answer isn't just about the economy. It's political. And it's all wrapped up in the potential motivations of a second Trump administration.
And Wood's theory breaks it down into a few key reasons. First, there's the political angle. The thinking is that by embracing crypto, a second-term Trump could avoid being a so-called lame duck president. One who's just counting down the days. This would give him a big, forward-looking project for his term. Plus, let's be real, the crypto community was a pretty important part of his voter base. And then there's the personal side of things. His family is said to have a growing stake in the crypto world. So you put all that together, the politics, the voter base, the personal interest, and you've got some really powerful reasons to make a move.
And we're not talking about a small amount here. The scale of this idea is, well, it's massive. The number that's been thrown around for the original intent of this national reserve, 1 million Bitcoin. Just let that sink in. That number alone tells you this wasn't just some passing thought. It was a seriously ambitious plan from the get-go.
Now, it's really important to get this next part. This whole Bitcoin reserve idea, it's not a standalone thing. Not at all. It's actually meant to be the centerpiece of a much bigger pro-crypto push. Think of it as one piece of a puzzle, with all the parts designed to fit together and make the US a major leader in crypto.
So here's how that puzzle would look. Step 1. You create the big national Bitcoin reserve. That sends a huge signal of government support. Step 2. You pass something like the Genius Act to finally get some clear rules for stablecoins. And step 3. You make small crypto transactions tax-exempt, which would obviously get more people to actually use it every day. You see how each step builds on the last? It's all part of creating one big, cohesive strategy.
So what exactly is this Genius Act they're talking about? Well, in a nutshell, it's a proposed law that would finally create some official rules and regulations for stablecoins. The crypto that's supposed to be pegged to something stable, like the US dollar. And getting that kind of legal clarity, that's seen as absolutely critical for the whole industry to really grow up and become part of the mainstream economy.
And look, some of this isn't just talk. The wheels are already turning on a few things. An executive order has already put a crypto working group together. And get this, the Treasury and Commerce departments have been told to figure out ways to get more Bitcoin, but in a way that doesn't mess with the federal budget. So yeah, this is definitely an area that's getting some serious attention behind the scenes.
All right, this brings us to the big finale. Maybe the most important part of this whole story. We've got the proposal, we've got the potential motivations, we've even got a rough outline of a strategy. But there's always a but, isn't there? There's a massive difference between what's promised on the campaign trail and what actually becomes official policy.
And here's the bottom line. The crypto community has heard all of this. They were there for the big speeches at places like the Nashville Bitcoin Conference. They're fired up by all the pro-crypto talk. But now it's a waiting game. They're all watching to see if these words and promises actually turn into real, concrete action from the government.
And that, right there, is the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it? We're watching this fascinating collision of technology, global finance, and just raw politics. The theory makes a lot of sense, and you can see why it might happen. But will political promises actually be enough to turn this idea into a real national Bitcoin strategy? And what would that even look like? A world where the US government is one of the biggest Bitcoin holders on the planet? Honestly, that's what everyone is waiting to find out.